Unit. Respected participants, a very warm welcome to JIMA webinar. We are privileged to have among us Surendra Singh from Big Groups as the speaker from industry. Surendra Singh is a seasoned business leader with over 29 years of experience across the industrial gases, chemical and manufacturing sector, having held leadership roles with Praxair, Linde and India Glycols Ltd. A management graduate from Lucknow University and IIM Kashipur. He brings deep expertise in P&amp management, growth strategy, and large-scale project execution across on-site, bulk, and packaged gas businesses. Throughout his career, Mr. Singh has been instrumental in driving business transformation, market expansion, and operational excellence while building long-term partnership with global client and key stakeholders. He has successfully navigated complex regulatory environments and led high-performing team to deliver consistent, sustainable growth. Known for his strategic vision and execution excellence, Surendra is passionate about delivering innovative, value driven solutions and fostering a culture of collaboration, accountability, and performance. I would now like to invite our knowledge partner to start knowledge share. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to all members over here. I hope Mr. Jain is also here, and really it is very good platform for me to share the experience which I am having. And I started my career long and having the 29 years experience. I started career with the CO2 business only when we were getting the CO2 from the different sources, particular from the fertilizer plant. So currently, I'm sharing my experience over here. So as you are aware, mm, I'm I'm associated with the big group, the group company of the E20 Greenfields Private Limited. They are in the ethanol, grain-based ethanol manufacturing. Now I'm focusing on the CO2. So in the CO2 business, I will give you the uh, business complex and some of the technical details so that our team, our members should motivate and they can put the CO2 plant as soon as possible. If they are not having or if they are having, they should go for the quality product. So the contents are here. So the first slide would be about the big group. Then I will share the CO2 sources, flow diagram of ethanol plant, process plant, and process flow diagram of CO2 plant, CO2 purification system. And then I will share lab equipment, CO2 ISBT report. ISBT means International Standard of Beverages and Technology. Then I'll share the MSDS. What are the key segments of CO2? Demand versus supply gap. Business model that can win the business in the market, as well as strategic opportunity. So let us go on the first slide. About though the most of the team members are knowing about the big group, however, I'm just giving the brief idea about the big group, the dynamic and fast growing leading player in industrial gases and plant the equipment on a pan-India basis, expanding the global field. The core specialization of the group is manufacturing and supply of industrial gases and major focus on the carbon dioxide business. We are having end-to-end capabilities in engineering, procurement, commissioning of plant, integrated solution. The group is having a strong logistic system, robust logistic system, I can say. We are having a very strong technical operational team as per industry required. Currently, we are serving various segments. However, we are majorly serving to the chemical. It includes the fertilizer, food and beverages, healthcare, automotive, and infrastructure. Commitment of excellence. We are focusing on the operational efficiency, safety, and customer service. Strategic growth. We are continuously investing in advanced technology, capacity expansion, and partnering. These are the major focus areas based on the current. Customer advantage, reliable supply, faster response time, and localized support across the India as well as Goa. Now I'm giving the example details about the CO2. No doubt, grain is major contributor in current scenario. However, if you go through the previous years, that time we were getting the CO2 from the fertilizer base, or prior to that I can say the molasses base, sugar base, CO2, and it was having a lot of challenges, as well as we were having the fertilizer based CO2 generation. Combustion is also major contributor, and some of the Indian regions is still getting irreliable supply or generation of CO2 from this process. However, the entire industry has been shifted from this area, I mean to say the combustion, fertilizer, to grain based. Why it is on a grain based? There were a lot of reliability in other process. So grain is the major contributor in this case, and the market is having sufficient carbon dioxide. So I'm sharing a process flow diagram of ethanol. I will request my colleague, who is the quality head, Mr. Kaif Ansari, kindly share your views.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Sendraji, for giving me this opportunity to share and to explain the process flow diagram what we are getting CO2 as a byproduct from ethanol. So as we can see from this slide that how the ethanol is being generated through the grains, being as a, so we have a boiler, turbine power, and in this process, in the earlier slide, we could have seen how the CO2 is being generated as a byproduct. So for every mole of glucose, we get the 2 moles of ethanol, and we get the 2 moles of carbon dioxide. So this is the overall scenario what we get from the ethanol production. So can we go for the next slide, sir? So this is the general overview of liquid CO2, how it is getting processed, how it is getting manufactured or recovery. So we have foam trap, where we entrap the foam which has been generated through the fermentations. Then we have blower, which is to suck the uh, liquids, gaseous CO2 which has been generated to fermenters to our CO2 plant. It can depend upon the volume of the gas. Then we have scrubbers, then we have compressors, then we have activated carbon, which is used to remove the off note and off content from the gases. Then we have dryers, which are the chemical molecular sieves that are present over here to remove all the dry moisture content of the gas. Then the process goes to liquefaction, where the ammonia is used as a refrigerant. It's a viable and economically available in India. Many will go for other refrigerant also, but being ammonia is an economically viable one. Then we have stipper column, where the venting of non-condensable gases goes out, and it enhances the purity of the liquid CO2. Then we have NOx tower. It's an additional thing where we used to remove the NOx compound which are coming in the gas. Then we have RV tank. Then we have storage tank, and the liquid which has been generated, it dispatches to the mobile tankers, as what we can see. So the whole scenario we will cover under SOPs, processes, and quality control. Robust quality control system is in place. So in this slide, we can see the overall purification of the CO2. That what I have explained in the previous slide. Next slide, sir. So in this slide, we can see this is the laboratory equipments which are required to process a quality product for food and beverage grade. Left hand side, you can see it's an online analyzer which has been approved by Coke and PepsiCo, which is used to monitor the impurity level of the gases present 24/7 monitoring, which will give us the readings in ppb levels. So the ISBT requires for hydrocarbons, acetaldehydes, methanol, benzene, sulfur, all those compounds needs to be addressed 24/7 monitoring. Otherwise, the product will fail into the category and we won't be able to generate to food and beverage supplies. So the robust quality system should be in place to manufacture and recover liquid carbon dioxide. On the right side, we can see a SCADA diagram of SCADA plant, how the plant is running 24/7 in continuous online auto mode. Okay, with all the alarm systems is in play. So autonomous bodies plays into that. Then we have a gas chromatography to identify the raw gas levels in impurity level at higher side. So these are the basic requirements for it to run a CO2 plant for good quality products, sir.
So go on the next slide.
Yeah, please. So this slide consists of safety measures and PPE which are must in a liquid carbon dioxide industry. As we all know, the liquid carbon dioxide is in minus temperatures. It needs to be handled with very care. All cryogenic gloves is required, goggles required, safety, and these are all the safety equipment which are must to be adhered in production area. Eye and face protection should be there. Otherwise, the liquid CO2 which has been generated into the production area will be at higher temperature and very high pressure. So this can cause damage to your eye and face if it is not handled properly. So safety is always and must along with quality product. That's our motto to manufacture liquid CO2 at consistently. Then if any extraction is there or any leaks is there, so we all know that CO2 being a oxygen replacing gas. So any area where we find or we feel that any CO2 is getting leaked out, it should be addressed very properly. Otherwise, it will be affecting the human or anybody who is in surrounding in that area. So for that, we have SBA kit, which has been located in all manufacturing areas, and the training should be given regularly, so that people should be aware of how to use the kits and all. Then we have a safety relief systems, SRVs and all, which are placed on over all the liquefaction or manufacturing equipment, but it needs to be calibrated yearly or half yearly. The duration should be adhered and calibration should be done. Otherwise, many times what had happened, we have seen the many cases in recent years that what we can say, the production area, the vessels has been blasted like anything because of the safety wall has not worked out. So the calibration of the equipments is it's a must. One should not be feel that okay, we have installed the service and we are in safe hands. The calibration, the equipment management should be there. So please, next slide, sir. So once the liquid CO2 has been generated, the test should be, this is the sample report of ISBT test report. This is International Society of Biotechnologies, where all the parameters, it is covering around 100 parameters in the liquid CO2. So these all impedance should be tested out. It can be half yearly or it can be yearly, depending on the customer requirement, but it's a mandatory requirement when we are supplying to food and beverage supplies.
Yeah,
next slide.
Mr. Ansari, I'm excited to share something over here. It is very important since we are using this CO2 into the beverages segment, and it is directly connected to the public. So it is very important, and in the worldwide, only 2 lakhs are here, one in India and in Thailand. So it is very mandatory to test your CO2 quality and have these parameters.
All over India, all over world, only 2 labs are only approved by Coke and Pepsi, sir. One lab is in Atlanta, USA. Another lab is in Praxair, Thailand. So these 2 labs are only authorized by Coke and PepsiCo to test the CO2 for all the parameters which has been listed by ISBT.
And whenever beverages companies like Coke or Pepsi, they are approving any facility, CO2 manufacturing facility, these are the mandatory parameters.
Mandatory requirement.
Based on that, they are moving forward.
Exactly. So coming out of this slide, this slide talks about material safety data sheet of liquid carbon dioxide, how to handle liquid carbon dioxide when it gets expelled or one had inhaled, or any injury or any mishappening has happened with liquid CO2. One should be aware of how to handle liquid CO2 appropriately. So this should be displayed. We have displayed in all mobile tankers which are transporting the liquid carbon dioxide. We have displayed the MSDS in the plant manufacturing and production area, so that one should be aware of the effect of liquid carbon dioxide when it get in contact with the liquid CO2. These things should be made in public to awareness purpose.
So thank you, Mr. Ansari, for sharing. Yeah, thank you very much.
Any questions regarding that, we can handle it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'm sharing the holistic demand of CO2 over here. So CO2, where CO2 is used? So major contributor is food and beverages for prevention and preservation purpose. Is a major contributor over here. Then the next segment is the welding and fabrication, majorly in automobile. They are the major contributors for the CO2.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry for the interference, but your voice is very low. Can you please speak a little bit loud, or you come closer to the system?
Now I'm audible?
Yeah, sir. Now you are audible. This is much better. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you.
So Should I repeat from beginning of this slide or should I continue?
Please repeat from beginning, sir, please.
Yes, yes.
Sure, sure, sure. So I'm sharing the key segments over here where the CO2 is used. The major segment is food and beverages. And in the food and beverages, no doubt, Coke and Pepsi are major contributor. However, a lot of local manufacturers, cola manufacturers are available. They are also having major requirement. The next segment is welding and fabrication. In a welding fabrication, automotive is a major contributor. And then now next is chemical, fertilizers, and pharmaceuticals. Here they are coming in a very big way for consuming of CO2. I'm sure this would be the biggest market in the CO2 would be major consuming over here by the chemical, fertilizers, or pharmaceuticals. The next is the healthcare. No doubt, in India is having very small consumption of CO2, but it is started consuming in the healthcare as well. The second last is the dry ice or cold chain. It's very much required and market is growing gradually in the dry ice or in the cold chains. Last is the dry ice blasting. This application is now very common used by the tire manufacturing industry. However, the big manufacturers are using this process. In coming days, I'm sure the other small manufacturers will also come. Tire manufacturers will also start using this process. Growth drivers. If we talk about the growth drivers, the packaged food and beverages is a growth driver in coming days. The way consumption is increasing of the packaged foods, sure the CO2 consumption will be more over here. So the next is the pharma and the healthcare extension. Here, there would be a good requirement. The segment is growing gradually over in India. Industrial manufacturing growth is also a growth driver, and it will support to the CO2 decrease. Demand and supply gap. It's a very important slide here. Physical CO2 versus the captured CO2 is a challenge right now. And the surplus CO2 available in India, but converting into the real world is a gap. So that we have to will discuss. Captured versus usable CO2. We are having availability of CO2 at many regions in India. However, there is a shortage of certain areas or regions that I will share with you in the next slide. This creates a paradox. India has an excess CO2, but there is a shortage of market about the finished CO2. The major point is lack of quality CO2 plant and equipment. Like we are emphasizing on our process, everything, but sometimes we are compromising on our CO2 plant and their related equipment. The parameters. If you go through these parameters versus status, overall CO2 availability is a surplus in India. captured CO2, no doubt, is a limited. Market demand is growing steadily, as well as the major issue is in the logistic range. We are having a very weak logistics system in India. Sometimes we are putting a plant, but we don't have an infrastructure of logistics, how to trunk CO2 from a particular place to the customer place. Shortage area. The real market gap, where is the real market gap? It is the southern part of the country as well as eastern part of the country because of the seasonal shortage. And moreover, beverages is also major contributor. Reason being, in a summer time or a season time, they are having a lot of demand. However, after completion of the peak season, they are having a very less demand. So, in a peak, they required a lot of quantity of CO2. But in the off season, the consumption has gone down. So because of that, they are having a very low requirement of CO2. And that time it would be a challenge. So very erratic situation over here. The next point is the food grade CO2. People are having a CO2 plant. However, the food grade CO2 supply system is required little investment. And I think it is lacking over here. A surplus area I'm sharing over here. The surplus belt is the Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra because of sugar mills and crushing season. And so that time UP and Maharashtra is having a lot of availability of carbon dioxide. As well as there are certain ethanol manufacturing units having a more presence in a respective regions or area where CO2 is also available. So we can see the shortage versus the surplus area of CO2. It results the regional imbalance and affecting the entire system. Structural demand, supplying gas prices, seasonal supply. Sugar mill also operate seasonally. So sometimes they are not operating, and the process, the automotive industry or other industry require the continuous CO2 is a challenge. CO2 supplies fluctuation also having a big challenge. Like to go through the current quota system, I can say, and maybe I'm using the different word. So there is a certain restriction or quantity controlled by the government. So it is also a challenge. Or unplanned maintenance is also fluctuating over here. And it is also seen that the CO2 plant operations and safety implementation is unfocused area in the most of the plant, manufacturing plant. Low capture rate. If we go through the data, some of the ethanol plants are still venting CO2 in the climate. They may have some capex barrier or maybe CO2 technical awareness issue. So is also a challenge. Logistics also a big challenge for the CO2 since is a maybe little low price product, and the transport cost as well as the tankers cost are very high. CO2 is viable not more than 200 to 300 kilometers. If it is going over and above 200 kilometers, it is totally unviable for the both, whether it is a manufacturer or it is a user. The user are not relying on our commitment. We will give you the supply continuously. However, they always prefer to take the supply from the nearest plant. Demand and supply is also a challenge, as I shared. Sometimes the industrial demand is also issue. When I'm just giving the one example, automotive sector are having during the year end, they are going for the maintenance for 30 days or maybe 45 days. It depends. So it is also a big challenge. Future demand. This is really a good slide for us. A supply outlook I am sharing over here. Demand growth drivers. We are expecting a lot of food processing and cold chain. The way the healthcare system is expanding, expecting consumption of CO2, steel. This segment, particular steel, new application, it is perfectly used by the other countries, not in India. Now, gradually, I have seen so many people from the other countries who are approaching India to build this process in India. Chemicals and fertilizers, the most important, where we can put our best effort, and as soon as possible, the fertilizer plants can start consuming CO2 in their process or enhancing of their yield. This would be a big market for us. So, if required, I can share the details how much quantity and who can consume in fertilizer plant. That is, I can share later on. But this would be a good market. Fertilizer segment would be a good market.
So can you share the segment-wise demand and availability if it is possible? Which segment takes how much quantity? And
I'm preparing that data, and because of some fertilizer and healthcare expansion, I'm calibrating the number. So I will share.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Surendra. Request if you can share this data to the larger group, that will be helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
If you talk about the supply growth cycle, the ethanol expansion and the carbon capture investment. So it's an outlook for CO2 and the way we are putting efforts for scaling up, those are having the CO2 plants in their ethanol manufacturing unit. This would be the good market for us. One more point is here, most all are having their own ethanol manufacturing plant. My suggestion is, it is basically, I can say the suggestion, a tie-up between the plants so that those are supplying carbon dioxide to the respective segment. They should ensure that the supply has to go. So if any plant is under shutdown or maintenance, planned maintenance or breakdown or whatever, they can take the supplies from some any other nearest CO2 plant and send the supply to the respective customer so that the confidence will build up. I am sharing this all information based on my discussion with some of the automotive companies or beverage companies that will install the recovery and liquefaction as soon as possible to take this plant, and how to reduce the transport cost or investment. We can make the regional distribution hub so that we can minimize the cost and sell the entire carbon dioxide in the market. I hope I'm not taking much time. Based on that, the respective people can make the agreement with the beverages segment, the steel plant, pharma, as well as the fertilizer for continuous supply. Strategic opportunity. We should turn the waste into the business. We must capture the CO2 from the ethanol plant and sell in the market. Food and beverages, CO2 recovery, supply to the food and beverage segment, supply to the industrial customers, and give the continuous supply to the dry ice manufacturers as well. As people are having a CO2 plant, but some of the plants doesn't have the dry ice manufacturing unit. So my request is a very small investment. We can do that and capture the market. We must see this. CO2 is not a waste. It is an asset and can drive the profitability. Our ESG compliances and downstream industrial integration. We go through the few years back, the CO2 was a challenge, availability is a challenge, reliability was a challenge. Now there is as such good availability of CO2. We can convert into the quality product, give the supplies on time to the customers, and we should start not saying the waste. It is our product. Again, I am sharing the same thing. It is not a byproduct, and like it is still seen as a byproduct, but in industry like ethanol, ammonia, and the refineries, many productions don't invest in capture the infrastructure. We need to understand, develop, and the innocent supply chain. In consider supply chain. So, this is a major detail I have shared. If you have any question, I will try my level best to answer your.
So I have a question that can you explain the difference between the CO2 being generated on a molasses plant and a grain plant based on the application? So
see, yeah. You are talking about the quality or you are talking about something else?
So quality, and can the same CO2 being used in molasses or grain can be used in the steel sector or maybe the industrial segment?
Yeah. So thank you very much for your question. See, the most if you go through the molasses based, molasses was having the severe challenge in terms in a certain period of a year, the plant is shut, and the irreliability is a challenge for any industry. Suppose any person is giving the continuous supply for 6 months or maybe 9 months, 3 months their plant is shut because of the various reasons, maybe the climate, to say the restriction from the government or environment issue or something like that. As well as the system totally depend on the cane crop. And grain crop is having the volatile situation. It is a basically 3-year circle. Sometimes there is a lot of sugarcane is available. So the next year the farmers will produce little less. The very next year it will be little more less. Then in the fourth year there will be a good quantity. So there is a, if you talk about the reliability, is a really a severe challenge. Over and above, if you talk about the quality, uh, grain is having the purest form as compared to the molasses grain. And I can share the grain based ISBT report versus uh, molasses based ISBT report, raw material report. So that can be visible. What are the differences? There is some
This
moisture.
quality difference, I feel, is more applicable for the food and beverage sector where it is going to the.
Correct.
But for I was talking about other segment besides food and beverage, industrial, where I think that part.
Industrial will also not prefer. Since if you talk about the 2-3 segmented, like if you go to the fertilizer plant as well, I'm including the fertilizer, then molasses, then grain. So every CO2 is having there some challenges in quality. Some quality is having a more hydrocarbon, some product is having a more sulfur or moisture. So moisture is the big challenge for the automotive industry or something, right? These all are eliminated in the ethanol-based or grain-based CO2. And that's why if you go through the 5-6 years back, there were a lot of challenge. People are not preferring, or user are not focusing on the molasses-based CO2. They were focusing on the fertilizer-based CO2. Now, one more point over here. If you go through the and see, there is a very little less plants are approved by Coke and Pepsi in past. Those are having a molasses base. However, now they are focusing and approving quickly since they are confident about the raw feed. So I hope I have answered your question. So molasses grain base is the
Yes, sir.
best product. That's why
So
I'm
one last question.
Yes.
You had mentioned something related about the steel plant, cojet, something like this. Can you please share that also?
This is the system uh, in Europe. It is a very commonly used in the steel plant for cleaning of their product. Okay, steel manufacturing unit, they are using CO2 in a certain pressure to clean their product, and then they are supplying to the respective customers. That is a basically challenge in India, and as on date, it is not used by anyone. Now it is gradually people have started approaching us, giving the application to the steel plant. Reason being, earlier CO2 was not available in a normal condition. Now it is available. So these applications will come only when the product is available. When the product is not available, people were struggling like a beverage segment or beer plants or steel plants or automotive. They were struggling in past. So that application can be implemented in coming days.
So any idea of the expected demand that this can create?
That I can share with you the odd numbers.
Okay.
Not a big challenge. I will share with you the entire numbers. What are the exact number in current scenario and in upcoming days, or maybe in next 3 years or 2 years. So that I can say.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question from the participant side? So, sir, we have two, three questions in our chat box. And first question is from Mr. Sanjay Singh. And his question is, we all are known that after installation of green ethanol plant, we have produced the surplus CO2 and can be captured. But question is, how the surplus CO2 consumed to change it in a sustainable solution?
Good question. So that can be just yes. So this process is also very much required some R&D, and based on that, it can be used in the ethanol as well. Right now, the data is little less, and it is not vetted by the industry. So I'm having a very small information about it. That can be a good market in coming days. I hope I have answered the question.
Okay, sir. The second question in the chat box is from SPAC Starch Bioethanol Process. And the question is, dear sir, during the preparation of dry ice, a 2:1 ratio of liquid CO2 is currently being used, meaning twice the required quantity of liquid CO2 is consumed to produce dry ice. This results in a significant amount of wastage. There is an opportunity to optimize the process and reduce this loss. How it is safe? Please give suggestions.
Yes. Yeah. So no doubt, dry ice is having a certain parameters and on the during the production, and we can minimize our losses. We cannot change the process, but we can minimize our losses while robust process system as per the details available on the site. And yes, the consumption of raw CO2. Raw CO2 means the finished product versus dry ice. It can be minimized, but it cannot be eliminated 100%.
Sir, I would like to add one point in this regard. Shall I?
Yeah, please.
So the sir question was that during the process of dry ice manufacturing, the loss is there. So absolutely the loss will be there, because when we are compressing the liquid CO2, the ratio 2:1, it's correct. But when we press 2 kg of CO2, it comes to 1 kg of dry ice. Okay. But when the process, during the process, there is a process, recovery process should be there, which technical knowledge should be there. So the recovery process should be connected in such a way that they should not be lost. So we have developed a technology, or we have developed a process where we are recovering our losses like anything, and we are minimizing the losses. So basic principle is that we have to recover the waste or the gas which has been venting out again to our process, and again it should be recovered completely, sir. I hope this answers your question.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Milind Bawa, and the question is, please tell us more about CO2 for cojet.
So as I mentioned over here, uh, this application is as on date now. People have started approaching us, which we are the CO2 manufacturers are having a good market share of CO2. Majorly, it is used in Europe. Now it can be used in India. So the repercussion will come later on. As on date, there is no as such available application over here in India.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Vivek Shukla. Any view on methanol generation?
We can answer your question later on.
Okay, sir. And the next question is from Manas Barenda. Please share the potential buyers of grain-based CO2 in Uttarakhand. They are asking for the list of potential buyer of CO2 in UP.
Sure, that can be sure.
Okay, the next question is from Vivek Shukla, and his question is: any low-cost logistic solution against cryogenic cell?
Logistic cost, if you talk about the logistic cost, as I mentioned in my slide, suppose if you talk about the Kashipur, Uttarakhand, if surrounding plants are there, we can make the hub and continue the supplies to the customer, minimize the transport cost, number one. Number two, we can make the bigger capacity of storage tank, and if there is a little more distance, we can create a hub of putting of the large CO2 vessel and start the supply as a secondary distribution. Then only we can make the reliable supplies as well as we can reduce our transport cost.
And the last question is from Neeraj Pratap, and he's asking tentative logistic cost of CO2.
It depends on the capacity of the tanker, whether you are using a 12 tons capacity of tanker or 15 tons of capacity of tanker, or maybe little more, or actually 19, 20, 21. Overall, if you talk about it, is costing somewhere around 40 to 45 rupees or maybe 50 rupees per kilometer.
So any other questions from the participant side? So since there are no more questions from the participant side, let us conclude the webinar. So we are very thankful to Mr. Surendra sir as a valuable knowledge partner. Please accept a token of appreciation from JIMA.
Thank you very much, and really it is a great platform to share the information and update the details over here. I hope it is with the support to the respective plants to focus on the quality and the safety plus reliability. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, sir. Thank you everyone for your time and participation. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It was helpful.
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you.